Hockey Inside Out, brought to you by Videotron.
Welcome to the HIO Show. I'm joined this week by Chris Nyland and Jack Todd. Game 5 of that Rangers-Habs series. Jack, I don't remember too many games like that. Dan Girardi called it a gong show. That's pretty much what it was.
Yeah, you don't expect to see that in the playoffs. You know, every season you get a few wild ones like that during the regular season, but not in the playoffs, especially not in a conference final. One of the wildest games I've ever seen. I was trying to fall asleep last night, trying to think of another playoff game I've seen or covered that was that crazy, and I couldn't come up with it.
Remind me of the old road hockey games when you'd heat up those plastic blades over the stove, make the big curve, put the Javex bottles for the posts. It was like road hockey. You ever remember playing in a game like that, Chris? Or?
Yeah, ping pong. I was down. I was down 7-4, and I come back and won 11-7. Won by 2.
Now, who was that wearing number 17 last night, Jack? It couldn't have been Rene Bourque. It was like the reincarnation of John LeClaire. I don't know what that was.
This guy has a second gear like nobody I've ever seen. You know, he has his normal kind of play. There have been times here I think he was playing hurt. He wasn't right because he can just vanish in the game. But man, when he turns it on, last night he was one of, to me, the top 5 or 6 players in the National Hockey League. Mm-hmm. He just took over that game. Even when the Rangers came back and tied it, Bourque, you could see he was not going to let him lose. You know, he deflected one off the metal. He missed an empty net. He missed the side of the net once. He could have had 6 goals last night.
What do you think happened?
Well, listen, I'm not going to make any excuses for Rene Bourque. He had a terrible season. You know, concussion or injury or whatever. He shouldn't have been on the ice if he was like that. Mm-hmm. You don't put a player on the ice continually if he's hurt and he got problems and he's doing what he was doing. You don't put him on the ice. So, to me, what I see is a guy that's more assertive, a guy that's playing the way he's supposed to play. He finally got sick of the ridicule, probably. Mm-hmm. I think someone sat down and talked to him. I think it was Mellenby, they said, which is a good move. And he decided, I want to do something about all the ridicule and, you know, not be the object of everybody's jokes. And honestly, I'm happy for the kid because it was embarrassing to watch. And I've seen it before. I've seen guys back in our day had big contracts and some just floated and they dogged it. Mm-hmm. And that's what it looked like. And, you know, when you do that, you're gonna get called out and people are gonna get all over you. And just like that, when he turns it around like he has, he deserves everything he's getting now because he's working for it. He shows up to play. And, you know, him, Weiss, and Ella together last night in that one, I mean, what a shift they had. I'm like, those 3 big bodies, right? We talk about big bodies, right? LA, the size of the team, what they do, and they get the job done. I mean, it's incredible what he's done. I'm happy for him, and I'm going to go so far to say that I'm proud of him.
It wasn't just the 3 goals. He was forechecking, Jack, back-checking, finishing his checks. He was doing everything Thomas Vanek isn't doing, or as some people are starting to call him Thomas Vanish. Yeah. What do you do with this guy now?
I don't know what you do. You know, again, you wonder if he's hurt or something, but that presser that Bergevin had before the Rangers series started, he said, you've got guys who get you there and guys who get you through. And, you know, we've got a bunch of guys on this team who are the get-you-through types, like Gallagher's number 1. Vanek, I don't know what he's trying to get to, but it isn't the one the Canadians are trying to get to. He doesn't compete. He's easy to bump off the puck. You know, there are times it looks like he's got something that's right there, and he just doesn't drive hard enough to finish it. I just think his head's in Minnesota.
Now, Brandon Prust is coming back from suspension for Game 6. Who do you sit? Do you sit Vanek?
I don't know what's going to happen there, honestly. You know, I didn't like the way that Prasad headbutted Weaver last night in front of the net. I didn't like what he did at the end of the game. A kid like that, I think that's got to be addressed, and who's going to address it? You know, I don't know who you sit or what he's going to do. And honestly, Thomas Vanek, you know, come on, the guy played in Buffalo for how long? They never did anything. He could score goals during the regular season. He was out there all the time, right? I mean, he's going to score goals. He's got a nose for the net. He was doing well here, but he's never been this far in the playoffs. He's never been in hockey like
that
this.
Intensity level, right?
This is the toughest hockey you'll ever play, the NHL playoffs. You play the regular season, one thing, but when you get in the playoffs, it's a whole different thing. It's the most intense, tough hockey you can play, and he's having a tough time.
Now, Jack, John Moore's hit on Weiss, payback for the Brandon Prust hit?
I think probably. I think Weiss and Moore had something going on all night. There have been a few little incidents before that one, but that was clearly premeditated. He took 3 or 4 steps, blindsided him, went to the head. It's got to be 2 games minimum, maybe longer. But the strange part of that one to me is that Weiss was back on the ice in any way, shape, or form after that. The way, as groggy as he was when he got up.
Do you remember having your bell rung and coming
Yeah,
back
my
like that?
first year in Minnesota, I tried to cut inside of Fred Barrett. He hit me in the shoulder, right in the jaw, knocked me dizzy. I was gonna go fight him, and Mario Tremblay grabbed me, started yelling, get over here!" And thank God I did, because I was gonna go fight him, and I was out on my feet. I went and sat down and regrew. I never went to no quiet room. You kidding me? I took a sip of water, shook it off. And honestly, I don't believe I had a concussion. I got a little bit dinged, but you know, it was surely, you could see last night, he was kind of and I was like that, honestly, at the same time. And you know, you get your bell rung sometime, it's one thing. Listen, if you got a concussion, I think you're going to know it right away. You're not coming back out on the ice. And I guess he was okay.
Well, PK saved him because it looked like he was going to fall. He was staggering, and PK sort of held him up. Jack, the Brandon Prust hit on Stepan, was that a turning point in this series? Because it wasn't really a nasty series until then, and everything seems to have changed.
Except for you know, getting the goalie bowled over in Game 1, but there was really no response to that on the ice. There was a lot of talk, but yeah, you're right. I think it was a turning point. I think it's a turning point that may end up hurting the Rangers, because now, you know, the Canadians survived it. Presta's coming back. He had a terrific game in that game before that led to the suspension. And in New York, you definitely want him on the ice. You know, I play him and everybody else up there and sit Vanek, because you don't need him.
We'll be back after a short break, and we'll talk a little bit about the character on this Canadians team. Welcome back to the HIO Show. One thing General Manager Marc Bergevin has done with this Canadians team is bring character back to the CH, Chris. But they just seem to be gelling together.
Yeah, well, you know, bringing guys like Weaver, character guy, Weiss, character guy, Vanek, I'm not so sure. You can't bat 1,000 all the time, but again, I think there was character here. Jonta, character guy. And it's important, you need that. And it's not like you just have it. Character, it evolves also. And
they feed off each other.
Yeah, and it's evolving here in the playoffs, you know, the first round. And it really came through in that Boston series, how they got through that Boston series, some of the things they endured as a team, some of the things they did as a team. And it helps drag other guys in who maybe don't have the character some guys have, and they spread it around the room.
Well, one of these character guys, Jack, is Brendan Gallagher. I know you're a big fan of his.
And a bigger fan all the time. You know, there are a few people saying, you know, we got to see, is he going to survive in the playoffs? He's gotten bigger in the playoffs. And there's a funny thing that goes on with Gallagher. They beat the crap out of him. He takes a lot of stuff. You know, Desharnais gets a roughing penalty last night on a play that Gallagher absorbs 10 times that much
with
punishment.
A smile on his face.
Never stops smiling. And actually, I think he doesn't get calls because he smiles. You know, he's not flopping, he's not diving, he's not giving you all this stuff. He just stays in there, keeps smiling, and unfortunately, they don't give him credit for it, and they don't call some of this crap, but it doesn't bother him. No. The play he made, one of the key plays last night, I thought, you know, along the glass there, spin away from the check, and then he's falling, he gets the puck to Pacioretty for a goal, and that's just pure grit and not quitting on the play. This guy's my future captain for the Canadians.
It reminds me of Dennis the Menace.
Always in trouble.
Always in trouble, yeah. I said he must have been a handful in kindergarten with his kindergarten teacher. Now, Tokarski, Chris, can they win this series with him? I know he looked a little shaky in Game 5.
They can. You know, last night it showed on a couple goals why he's been in the American League. You know, that one from Stepan. I mean, I know Lundqvist let in a similar goal, but I mean, that was a softie. You can't be letting those bananas in. And again, I might seem like I'm harshing the guy, but they can win with him. But he can't afford to give up those soft goals. He's got to battle. He's got to do just what he's been. I mean, he made some key saves last night after those goals that kept the Canadians in the game. I mean, before the one with the stick was incredible that he got across, and then he had a pad save on Kreider and Stepan later in the game. So, you know, I think they can. Can he take them to the promised land? I'm not so sure.
I thought they were maybe going to go to Budai after they tied it, and they didn't. And you could see why, because the kid has enough toughness to battle back. You know, he's a battler all the way. You'd feel a lot better with these next 2 games with Price in there, but you don't have Price, so
he's not a tall guy either, and he seems to
No.
go down a lot. You wonder if Stefan Waite can fix that really quickly.
Yeah.
Now they knocked the crown off King Henrik last night. Chris, what does that do to a team when you see a star goalie like that and you see him knock him out?
Well,
of the
he's
game?
the type of guy who's definitely going to battle back, regroup, but. You know, it does, I think, affect the psyche of the team a little bit. I mean, you look at what happened the first game here, Canadians 7-2. I mean, it was like they didn't show up. Price gets hurt. It does affect his psyche a little bit. Goaltender goes out, but he's thinking of the next game already. He's getting ready for that next game. He wants to end it next game. So the Canadians, when they go into New York, they're going to have to. They're going to have to put the pedal in the metal, and they can't afford to do what they did last night. They had a 4-1 lead, comfortable lead, a lead they should have never surrendered, and boom, quickly it's 4-4. Oh my, great they battled back, but you're not going to go anywhere if you play hockey like that every night.
I was wondering how long Lundqvist was going to comb his hair before he came out and sat on the bench.
it took a while.
Now, Galchenyuk, another good game in Game 5. This kid's 203 pounds now, but he looks, Jack, like he's a guy who's going to be like 220 when he fully develops.
He was
So he's just gonna be a
180 about
monster.
18 months ago, and you know, I think getting him back is a huge factor in this series. To me, he's been one of their top 3 or 4 players since he came back. He, you know, wasn't fully in the groove maybe until last night, but this is a huge talent you've got out there. You're a different team with him in the lineup than without him.
What impresses you about him, Chris? You must have loved to play on a line with a young kid like that.
Yeah, well, it impressed me that he was able to come back and get it to this level so quick. Like, it's not easy. The time he was out, the injury he had, and then he comes back and really cranked it up. I'm impressed with him. You know, he's the kid. You know, they're going to have to insulate him down the road because he's going to be a star player here one day, and you have to protect him. I mean, believe me, Boston is drooling to get at this kid and not to trade for him, to make him part of the glass or part of the boards. And, you know, that's a kid for the future is going to have to be insulated with big players.
Now, Jack, no matter what happens in this series, the future looks bright for the Canadians. They seem to have all the. I think they're way ahead of Marc Bergevin's rebuilding plan.
I think he's having to adjust constantly to a team that's more than he thought it was going to be at this point. You know, they've got all kinds of solid pieces, especially young guys that are solid, from Gallagher to Pacioretty, Subban, even Price is young. This is a really good young nucleus. I think it's the best team since I've been on the beat in 1994, and it may be better than the 1993 team that won the Cup. It's pretty solid up and down, maybe a couple of high-end forwards, Vanek, who plays all the way through the season. That's about all they need. And for Gainey not to have traded away Ryan McDonough. Yeah. Because they would have the best young defense in hockey with him here. God, is that painful.
Now, Lars Eller at the end of the game last night, Chris, he had a bit of a mean streak. He cross-checked the guy from behind. Is that something a guy can learn? Can you teach a guy to have a mean streak?
Well, I think, honestly, Lars, since he got that hit in Ottawa, he stepped up this year a little more and decided, you know what, I'm getting hit all the time. I'm going to give it back. I'm not going to always be the target. I'm going to be the initiator. And honestly, Lars Eller, he works his butt off. I watch him all the time out there. That's one thing you can't take away from that kid. He works hard. He never floats. Does he get it done all the time? Does he make mistakes? Sure he does. You know, 1 minute he'll be skating through the whole team, and he gets down, and he's coming in and it looks like he's going to make a play, and he flips it in the stands. And I'm like, oh my God, Lars. That's what Lars does, but it's not for lack of effort. It's the odd time he has a major league brain cramp.
Now, can they come back and win the series, Jack?
Yeah. In fact, I think they're going to. I called it in 6. I was wrong. It's going to take 7 games, but they're going to win it.
Chris?
I think the Habs got a, you know what, I hate making predictions, but I want to see them do it. I think they can, but boy, they have to play close to flawless hockey in New York to get this done.
If they do bring it back here for Game 7, it's going to be crazy. They might burn the city down after the game.
I might go to the game. I might.
Don't riot. It's your town.
If
Show
there's
some
a
respect.
7th game, I may go. Okay? I might be there.
That's it for this week. We'll be back next week with another episode of the HIO Show. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks.